thanks for joining us again. And today we're really going to talk all the way up to the retrieval. And I'm hoping that we didn't snub anybody during the last video that you thought we were going to get to this point, because we really wanted to make sure that we could talk about certain things. So, thanks again for joining. At the end, we're going to put all our tips and tricks all the way at the end. So we've got, I think, about 10. So please stick around till the end. Obviously, at this point, if you've already made the decision, you've already gone through and you've gotten the go-ahead just from your baseline, all your baseline blood work and all the tests and things like that, you probably have a giant box of medications that you're trying to figure out what to do with. And I'm sure it's overwhelming. It was overwhelming for us. And if you're not quite to that point, you're probably overwhelmed thinking about it, but don't be overwhelmed. At the end of the day, number one, your doctor is going to do everything they can to make sure that you succeed. So for us, and I'm sure that it's the same way for most offices, we had an educational session actually with one of the nurses. So they bring you in, they show you how to use all the needles, which we had 4 different types of needles, different lengths and different thicknesses. They show you how to make sure that you can kind of collectively make sure that you're not taking as many injections. You can put some of your injections together, but they'll walk you through those things. So don't really get too overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, and then so once you start that cycle, they'll start you on the medication like Ari said, and expect lots of appointments. He wasn't able to go to all of them, which, if you're out there and, your partner can't attend all the appointments, it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. He was there for maybe a third of them, I would say. He definitely was there, for the first one. So he was there when we initially, saw how many follicles there were, and then a couple sporadic ones in between where he would see, how they grew. And then, were you at the last one? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know if he was. It was a long time ago. And then up until the end, obviously he was at the retrieval. But expect appointments. So I went every other day. That includes weekends, holidays. I know for us, did it fall over a holiday?
Yeah, it
fell over.
Was it Memorial Day? I think it was Memorial Day.
I think so. But yeah, it fell over a holiday, so just kind of be prepared that, don't plan, a holiday getaway or a weekend getaway, because chances are you're going to have to be seen, whether it be Saturday or Sunday, or like I said, on a holiday. And
your doctors are aware of that anyway, obviously, because everything here is time-based. So
yeah,
they're well aware they're going to need to be available for you, regardless of whether it's something scheduled or unscheduled.
Yeah, so I, am not working and was not working during this time. So if you are working, it might be something you want to talk to your, HR about, or your boss, and let them know that, you'll have multiple appointments. Or, I know that the fertility clinics will work with you too. I mean, if you let them know that you can only, have morning appointments or afternoon, they'll be flexible with you. Just obviously tell them up front so they know that they're going to need to save slots for you to come in. And then along those lines, because you're going in every other day, they're checking the size of the follicles, and they want to catch it, at the perfect time when it's, right before you ovulate, and they want to kind of get as many eggs as they can to that stage so that you have tons of eggs at the retrieval. So your timeline can change. So, they'll tentatively give you a timeline and say, okay, we're going to assume if you respond, to your treatment plan, retrieval day will be X. It can change. It can be earlier, it could be later. I know for us, it got pushed back because the doctor wanted 1 extra day of medication just to get all the eggs that I had to grow to the certain size that he wanted. So along those lines, just be prepared for that. You may, need more medication. So like I said, just don't be too caught up on that initial calendar that they will give you.
So once you get to that point and they tell you, hey, we're gonna go in for the retrieval, they're gonna tell you exactly when to take the trigger shot. So you're gonna take the trigger shot, and what is it, 72 hours later?
36.
36 hours later, they're going to do the retrieval. And it's really important for that to be dead on time. So for you, obviously that's your controllable. You need to make sure that you control that time. We'll have kind of a tip for that later. But once you do that, for us, we actually had to go, we had about a 2-hour drive from home to get there. So we stayed overnight. And when we got to the office, so it was pretty cool. The office where we were, they had the embryology lab. It was visible to everything. So when you get there, obviously they take her back. I went back with her to kind of get her prepped and everything, but then they send you in 2 different directions, obviously. They need one thing from her and one thing from me. But afterwards, I got to come back and physically watch them as they retrieved each egg from her. They brought it in and they put it up on the screen in the embryology lab. And literally one of the embryologists would point it out and kind of show you exactly what was going on. So that was pretty cool. And then obviously, then they kind of directed us back into the same room. We got her to calm down off the medication a little bit, managed to get her into the car and get home. But it really, the retrieval process itself is pretty smooth. I mean, you really didn't have much pain at all. I don't know how she would have, because she was looped out on, obviously, tons of medication. And, you know, anybody will be there. But probably to the point here where everybody's really sitting there going, okay, well, I know all of that, but what can you really do to help me with? So here's some tips and tricks. So the first thing is, obviously, she's the one taking all the injections. But if your partner can be there, so I was there for all of the injections, luckily. Luckily, I was there, because really the biggest thing is it's really nerve-wracking. I mean, I typically don't get nervous about things like that at all, but I mean, you're talking about a vial that's $1,000 vial. So you really want to make sure that you've got a clear mind, you've got somebody there to really support you if at all possible. And the second thing is, if you can, draw the vials over a soft surface. So this is one that we were literally just thinking about while kind of putting this list together. We did it over a granite countertop, I mean, right next to a garbage disposal. So had something gone wrong, obviously, that would have been a lot of money literally down the drain. So just kind of think it through. If you want to do it on a bed, if you want to put a blanket up on the countertop or something like that, or on the couch. But that way, if you drop the vial, I mean, you're not really worried about contamination with these things, because, I mean, it's a sealed vial. Just make sure you don't drop it and crack it. But the both partners thing is really important as well. Obviously, she's going to really want to make sure that you know, that she's doing it correctly, and she's going to want some reassurance.
Yeah, I know. We even the day of my injections, we were Googling YouTube videos on, you know, watching people, even though we, like we mentioned earlier, you know, they'll walk you through the how to do the injections, but I mean, you lose your mind, essentially. Your mind goes blank and you panic. So we were Googling and watching videos.
A couple of other things with the medication as well. If you can, a lot of this is refrigerated, so dedicate, if you can, one drawer, like a dairy drawer or something like that, in your refrigerator, so that you don't have anything else around it. You just really, you don't want to knock it. Again, reassurance that nothing's going to happen. And also on kind of the same note, and this is another one of Natalie's kind of freak out moments, is what happens if you lose power. So all this stuff, again, needs refrigerated. So if you're in an area that is prone to power outages, you might want to think about spending a few $100s and buying yourself a generator. Maybe just keep it in the box, and if you never use it, you can return it. But worst case scenario, hey, you know, you have it if you need it.
So another tip we have is don't read about side effects, because it'll drive you crazy. And I know, you know, I'll admit I did some reading, but then finally I said no, because I'm just gonna, you know, think too much about that. But you'll do some reading, and you know, it'll tell you all these side effects. One that came up was, you know, that you'll be really emotional, or, you know, kind of go crazy, which I don't think I did.
We'll leave that one for somebody else to answer.
But yeah, I really didn't have any side effects other than maybe a little bit of cramping. So, don't worry about that aspect of it. Another thing in regards to medication, so we kind of alluded to this earlier, these medications, you want to take them on time. So we had alarms in our phones. We both had it because I'm paranoid, and I was like, well, what if my phone breaks? At least we have a backup. And we had multiple alarms. One to kind of be like, hey, meds are coming up. And I did that because if we were ever out and about and lost track of time, that way it would be a reminder, hey, we got to get home. I'm gonna have to start prepping the medication. So I had an alarm. I think it was an hour before the meds, and then another alarm, kind of half an hour, and then 15 minutes so I can prepare. I mean, this might be a little excessive, but I think it's important to have that so that you don't all of us, you're not out shopping and your alarm goes off and you're like, oops, I'm nowhere near my medication. And then that's very important with the HCG shot. You definitely want to make sure you take that when they tell you to. I mean, you don't want to take that too late or too early. You really want to take it exactly when they tell you. So definitely, if you don't use an alarm for the other shots, definitely use it for the HCG trigger shot. So for another tip would be to do early appointment for the retrieval. And the reason I say that is because it is a little surgery, so you're not allowed to have any food or liquid after, I believe it was 10 o'clock the night before. So if your retrieval isn't until the afternoon or later on, I know for me, I would be starving and thirsty. And then also, if you're anything like me, you have all day up until the retrieval to let your mind go crazy and for you to worry and panic. So I think it's a lot easier if you just sleep, wake up early, and have the retrieval done. So I would recommend having just an early morning appointment if possible. Also, if you are working during this process, it may be beneficial to just take off on the day that you do the HCG trigger shot. And the reason I say that is, like I said before, it's very important to take that medication on time. So if you're at work, on that day, during the time, if you're seeing patients or with a client and, you lose track of time, it's a big deal. So it might just be easier for you to just relax at home so that you're home when you need to do that injection. Another thing, so we'll talk about this more in our next video, we ended up doing acupuncture with the transfer, and I wish if we do this again, we would have done it, earlier, because we did lots of reading on it. We didn't read up about it until after we had the embryos, which is why we only did it with the transfer portion of IVF. But now that we know what we know from reading all these articles and talking to our doctor, we would do acupuncture earlier because the science is there that it really does help in conjunction with IVF, with, getting more eggs, having your uterus kind of be prepped and ready.
And that was one thing too, that the doctor, typically our doctor he was really cut and dry, and almost everything we asked him, he was like, don't worry about it. But that one right there, he basically said, we're not, thinking about it now, I'm not really sure why we don't just suggest everybody do it, because it's one of the things that, like she said, the science is actually there.
Yeah. And then kind of our last tip and trick would be to eliminate, which obviously you can't eliminate completely, but kind of be aware of certain stressors in your life. So for us, for instance, we, with our history of our losses, we chose to not tell anyone. And we did that because for us, we knew we couldn't handle it. For us, IVF is stressful. And for us, we didn't want the added pressure of people constantly asking us, oh, how many eggs? Oh, do you still have X amount of eggs? And then once you get to the embryo stage, or after the retrieval, how many fertilized? We didn't want those phone calls because, it's kind of like I said, you're worried about it constantly and you don't need other people, at least we didn't want the other people kind of in our business constantly asking us about it. So if you do choose to tell people, which obviously it's perfectly fine if you do, I mean, you'll get more prayers and people, crossing their fingers for you. But if you do tell people, just kind of be prepared that people will ask a lot of questions and you may not want to share everything with them. And also another thing, be prepared to spend more money than you initially planned. So for instance, as I mentioned earlier, we ended up needing an extra day of medication. So originally when we ordered all the medication, it was X. And then when we needed to get more, like he was saying, each injection is about $1,000 a day. So it's expensive. So if you go into it thinking, okay, this is all I'm spending, and all of a sudden the doctor says, okay, well, we need to order more medication, you're going to be kind of sticker shocked and not happy, and then you'll be stressing about the finance aspect, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't stress during this at all. Just kind of be relaxed and go into it knowing that, hey, you're going to probably spend more than you initially anticipated, so just be prepared so that when it comes up, you're not in panic mode.
So just put extra money aside.
Yeah.
Probably put $600 or $700 aside just to be safe, and if it's there at the end, it's there at the end. Spend it on the baby.
Yeah.
But it's helpful to have it there anyway. Natalie's good at saying this is my last thing and then continuing on. But we've got one other thing. I alluded to the fact that we did stay in a hotel, and so it's 2 hours for us. One of the things for us, obviously, was she's super paranoid about everything. What if we get a flat tire? What if we get all this stuff? So we just chose to stay in a hotel room. It was 5 minutes from the office. And if you do take an early morning retrieval, also ask for a late checkout, because our hotel had a full breakfast. We chose it on purpose because we knew she wasn't going to have eaten for quite some time. So we were able to finish the retrieval, go back to the hotel, eat breakfast. She took an hour and a half nap. I got some work done. We got in the car and drove home. So again, it's one of those things, it just reduces some of the stress. It gets you to your destination. You feel a little bit easier in the morning. So Natalie also mentioned the next video. I think the next video will probably actually be cost.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the cost first, but we haven't asked anybody to subscribe quite yet, but please subscribe, because we're really committed to doing every Thursday videos. We're going to upload on Thursdays, but we're also going to start probably uploading some random ones, so they won't be on Thursdays, so you'll get maybe a notification here or there. So let us know if there's, again, any questions. Put them in the comments down below, and we thank you for watching. Until next time.